Hello everyone and welcome to our latest Q&A. We are here in magical Sintra, which incidentally was one of our first Mossy Earth projects back in 2017. Even before the membership, I don't think it's even on the website. It's also the location where I crashed our first drone, which was, we bought that off our first rewilding vote. So people voted that we bought a drone and soon after I crashed it. But I'm here today with my good friend and colleague Tim, and moving forward, Tim and I are going to take over from Duarte with the Q&A. Duarte is super busy running Mossy Earth and running the YouTube channel, so we're stepping in and we're going to try to be accountable to one another so that we hit every quarter. Today's Q&A probably going to be a bit different to the last ones because we noticed the last Q&A was actually Q1, so we've missed quite a few. And since it's December, we thought we could just do a sort of wrap up. We've got a whole list of questions from across our social media platforms, feedback forms, and we'll go through those slowly, answering them as best as we can. Anything else to add before we jump in?
No, I think that's it. We'll pretty much get started, right, with the questions. There's quite a lot to come through, so
let's jump in.
Yeah.
So the first question, why has it been so long since the last Q&A? So yeah, as I just said, Q1 was the last one. We're embarrassed, we're sorry. Tim and I are going to do better. You're going to be seeing us every quarter moving forward. Perhaps our ambition, we're perhaps a little bit too ambitious and our implementation isn't always aligned with our ambition. But what has been keeping us busy? I've got a nice little list here. First up this year, we finalized the purchase of a land in Ecuador. It's in a beautiful area, an area that is regarded as one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. And Duarte, Tiago and Adriana are there now. And they say the rewilding potential of this area of land is incredible. Duarte is going to make a series of 7 videos of the area, so I don't want to sort of spoil too much. There'll be plenty to see on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I've had some snippets back already, which looks fantastic, and it's a mind-blowing place to be working, and a really special ecosystem that we're proud to get cracking with. So look out for those videos.
Yeah, I'm keen to visit as well at some point. Next up, building a course. So actually, myself and a few of my colleagues have been building a course this year, something we've been wanting to do for a long time. Actually, both Tim and I are ex-teachers, so big believer in education. I think since the beginning of Mossy Earth, I wanted to get a course done, but we finally got it going. Listened to a lot of feedback from members and non-members who they want to be more than just a member, and how can they get involved. So this course, it gives some foundation to the sort of principles of rewilding, but also looking at ways people can get involved, whether it's politically, doing things at home, getting involved in citizen science.
Yeah, just to give you the tools to feel empowered and to make a difference in your area.
Yeah, we hoped it was going to be out sooner, but we think January. So keep an eye out for that. Next up, expanding the team. Do you want to?
Yeah, so we've been able to bring on a few new members for the team last year, which has been great. We had some biologists join us at the beginning of the year, but I think they were already part of the team when we had the last Q&A. But since then, we've had Maya join. She's our community manager, and you would have seen her in our project discussion videos with our biologists. And we've also expanded the video team. And Joel is our latest addition there as an editor, and we've also started to build the project-specific staff as well. We have Francis working in Scotland at our hub there, and Yuli over in Indonesia, and also Freddie working in the Ecuadorian Amazon. So yeah, the team's growing, which is nice.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and it's really exciting since obviously being at Mossy Earth since the beginning, just seeing Mossy Earth in good hands. It's a fantastic team. Next up, we've also been, this is probably more the bios, building internal processes for the project selection. So building all this infrastructure behind the scenes so we can choose projects. We can fund the best projects available. What else? We've also been moving towards, Isla will, a bit later in this Q&A, Isla will be telling you more about the project selection tools. And that's something else. In this Q&A, not only Tim and I are going to be rambling along, we're going to be calling out to some of our colleagues, Tiago, Isla, to add a bit more information on some of the questions. What else? Yes, so again, Isla will expand on this, but we're sort of trying to move away from a whole number of projects to more own projects and looking from a sort of landscape scale. So looking at one area and all of those interventions we can do in this one area. So not to sort of spread ourselves too thin and focus more on what we call hubs. But Isla will tell us more later. Changes to the account, Tim.
Yeah, a few big changes in the membership account, just to help you sort of track your impact with us more accurately, and yeah, a few other changes which I'll mention later on.
Cool. And then we have conservation evidence.
Yeah, so we've been partnering with the University of Cambridge to develop our evidence-based decision making, and Tiago, I think we'll talk more about that later on.
Exactly. And most excitingly, 3 of us have become fathers. Myself, Diogo, who's behind the camera, and Rob, who's in the video team. We all became dads this year, which has meant it's stretched the team quite thin at times. So question 2, do you still plant trees? In short, yes we do. We still have reforestation projects in Romania, Iceland and Scotland. However, we have scaled back the number of trees we plant. We're not planting a set number of trees for each member each month. And this comes back to a vote that we put out to our members last January and a white paper where we were looking to diversify our methods and focus more on forest health than forest size. And some of those methods, so in addition to tree planting, also understory restoration, mycorrhizal fungi, some natural regeneration. So still tree planting, but just diversifying our methods.
Just trying to be more efficient with the membership budget.
Yeah, I think we strongly believe, and sort of based on the sort of conservation evidence as well, that this is going to have a greater impact on biodiversity and a more effective way of spending our members' money. So that was the sort of key thing. You can go back to our last Q&A to learn more about it, because Duarte there delves into it, and also the white paper.
Yeah, we'll link in the description. So
yes.
Check that out if you want.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was going to one other point about tree planting. Paul. So Paul, our technical officer, he also mentioned if someone's app is still showing the tree counter, it's the old one, so it needs updating. And he says don't go to the app store, go through the instructions in your account to downloading the new app. And the other thing I wanted to mention was we appreciate not everybody voted in favour for this change or this transition and move away from trees, and we also appreciate that it was quite nice seeing the tree counter, wasn't it? Which leads on nicely to our next question, which Tim can take, I think. Why doesn't the account show how many trees we have been planted with my contribution anymore?
So now the tree counter is not around, which was a nice tangible aspect to the account, which I know a lot of people liked. But yeah, we've gone to some extreme lengths to try and depict one's impact in other metrics. And this began with the launch of our transparency database, which is where you can see all the ecosystems, the habitats within the ecosystem, and also the species that we believe we've directly impacted, and a selection of some which we've indirectly impacted. And
sorry, just jump in, Tim.
Yeah,
The transparency dashboard is both in the account and on the
yes,
web page,
yeah,
so you don't have to be a member even to see the transparency.
Exactly, yeah. So available for anybody to see on the website, and yeah, it's a way we try to represent a deeper level of understanding of our impacts. So take for example our project to rewild a former mining site in Portugal. By diversifying the water habitats and water depths of the site, we're increasing the size of the wetlands, and in turn that will benefit all the invertebrates and vertebrates that use the site as habitat. And in the transparency dashboard, this is where we will represent it in the size of area impacted, and that's trickles down into all the species, which you can browse through. Some lovely images uploaded there, and also a chance to learn some Latin species names as well, if you're interested. And in terms of the individual impacts in the membership account as well, we also have a counter for all the ecosystems that you'll be impacting since your membership began, the species and projects which you support each month. I'll mention that we try to make it interactive, so yeah, there's a breakdown by ecosystem type and species group as well, and we also try to keep it updated throughout the month as well, so it's worth checking in. Occasionally we'll have additional content such as our project discussion videos, 360-degree images, and often there are the maps as well. So yeah, that's how we try to keep the membership accounts more tangible in terms of the metrics we report, and then but in terms of the trees planted, we still have polygons on our maps, which you can find on our project pages. These are polygons of all the areas that we've planted trees in. And is there something else to mention?
Yeah, I think just while you're looking as well, so Tim's also involved in the UX, and you guys have been working hard to make all these changes to sort of make the impact more tangible, and some of them are quite recent changes. So if you haven't seen them already, or you haven't been into your account for a while, go experience the dashboard. I think it's really cool. So yeah, they're always adding new stuff. So yeah, be sure if you haven't been in for a while, go in and check out the work they've been doing.
And yeah, check out the app as well. Yeah, we want to be updated more regularly. Each week we'll notify you whenever there's some new news from our biologists, and every month we'll also let you know when you can check all your monthly impact as well. So yeah.
Cool.
Oh, sorry, I would also mention as well, for the number of trees that we plant, we let you know in the your impact section of the account, in what we call action cards, where we'll give a brief description of what's happened in the month at each project, and yeah, we'll drop the number of trees planted in there if you're curious.
Cheers, Tim. So question 3, I would like to offset my carbon footprint. Do you measure carbon sequestration of your projects? So if a project sequesters carbon, and if it's cost effective to monitor the carbon, then yes, we will. But carbon sequestration is not a focus of ours, nor do we offer carbon credits. We sort of see carbon sequestration, quite a word to say, we see carbon sequestration as just one of the many benefits of nature restoration and rewilding. Some of those other benefits involve, I'll bring up the list because I always forget. Enhancing and protecting biodiversity, improving habitat integrity and connectivity, enabling ecosystem processes, and protecting unique species. So yeah, carbon is just one of the benefits of nature restoration. So we're more focused on improving an ecosystem rather than just focusing on carbon sequestration rates. So if a project sequesters carbon and it's cost effective to monitor it, then we will monitor it. It's not a focus of ours. We did used to have a carbon calculator. We've discontinued that now, as we've really just focused on nature restoration. Yeah. So question 4, it comes in: why don't you have more agroforestry or permaculture or urban rewilding projects? So I'm actually going to hand over to Isla, who's going to answer this question for you.
Hey everyone, Isla here. I'm one of the conservation biologists at Mossy Earth, and cheers Matt and Tim for bringing me in to answer a few of our members' questions. To deliver the best return on our members' investment, and now that's ecological return, we are mostly looking for projects that have a cascade of benefits across an entire ecosystem or ecosystems, and we're looking for these benefits to be long-term, so that they increase the resilience of the ecosystem over a long period. So basically safeguarding the ecosystem and everything that lives within it, right? But those are not the only types of projects that we focus on, of course. We also look for projects that they test innovative interventions that can have widespread benefits across a range of ecosystems if they are to work. And also we look for projects that focus on protecting rare or threatened and unique species. So these criteria haven't historically lended themselves very well to us working in an urban setting, nor have they lended themselves well to us focusing on a project with a permaculture or agroforestry focus. But something that we're averse to, and if the right opportunity were to come up, then it's something that we definitely look into pursuing. Yeah, watch this space. Let's dive into the next question. You select your projects. So, as biologists, we are faced with a world of opportunity at Mossy Earth. We get project ideas incoming from our partners, we find some, and we also get lots from our members too. Sounds like the ideal situation, right? But when there are all of these options available, choosing which one to pursue and which one would be best, give the best return on our members' investment, gets really tricky super quickly. So we've been developing tools to address this over the past year or so. And one of those is our project selection tool, which you can read more about on our website. The selection tool is a multi-criteria analysis, which scores projects against lots of different criteria that we have set. And once projects have been run through this tool, we then use the project selection tool to facilitate discussion as a team. What this does is it holds us accountable and makes sure that we're not glossing over any factors for a particular project for any reason, and that we think about the concept really, really thoroughly. Once we have had a discussion as a team, using the tool, we then make a decision as to whether we would like to pursue the project or not. Sometimes this is a longer process whereby it springs up a few questions that we need to address, whether or not we'd like to pursue the opportunity or not. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's our projects. With project selection in mind, we've been going through a really exciting year of project development here at Mossy Earth. So in our rewilding projects, you'll see us working with a range of partners so helping them to fund a range of different interventions, such as our red kite reintroductions with a moose. Alongside these, we're also looking to develop projects led by us in what we like to call our rewilding hubs. So the vision for these rewilding hubs is for us to focus on systems at a landscape, watershed or seascape level and have cumulative impacts over time, focusing on these areas. It's really exciting and will allow us as conservation biologists to be really close, or more close than we have been, to projects. So an example of one of these projects is our native oyster restoration project that Francis and I have been developing in Scotland, but we will have more projects to announce for you soon. And yeah, we're really excited to see where these go, and we'll see where 2024 takes us. Before I hand you back over to Matt and Tim, I have one more point that I forgot to mention, is that with these hubs, it will take us a wee bit longer to have impact in a similar way to when we fund an intervention with a partner. But we are confident that the projects we develop in our hubs will initial weight and investment. And also hope that you as members enjoy the experience more, because you're going to be seeing these projects effectively being born all the way to us undertaking field actions. So that's pretty cool, and you'll be able to follow along the story with us. So cheers.
Thank you, Isla, for those last two. And this question is why it might seem like we spread ourselves too thin, and how we try to avoid that. And yes, it's true. We've got, for the small size of a team we have quite a disproportionate amount of projects, and they're spread over a lot of different countries, over a lot of different ecosystems. So yes, we are spread. However, we've got sort of measures in place not to spread ourselves too thin, in that some of the projects are run by our own biologists and others are managed by our project partners. And each of the projects have their own management plans with project outcome objectives and monitoring objectives, which is all being carried out behind the scenes by the biologists. And we seem, between our biologists and our project partners, we're able to work on that or get it done. And then the other thing is that we are, as Isla was just mentioning, is we're sort of looking to sort of trim the number of projects, not spread the net so far, and really focus on a few hubs. Going back to what I said at the beginning, this sort of landscape scale approach, and having just 4 or 5 of those and having interventions within those areas. So we'll sort of reduce the number, certainly of locations and the number of projects. So
in terms of partnerships, I just come in here. So working with partners that we have established long-term relationships with, so that they can run a bit more like clockwork in terms of management, and yes, the same. So we can shift away and have our focus more on our own projects, and yes, having these long-term partnerships operate and not having to do as much of the groundwork that will go into establishing new partnerships. And yes, great opportunities come around, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Never say never.
Yeah, and just as you were talking there, Tim, I also remembered is that sometimes some projects nothing's happening for a period of time, and then something's happening on another project. So perhaps say you're Tiago or Isla, while they're working on this, there's not much going on another project they manage, and then when this one goes quiet, the other one starts moving. So it does sort of work itself out.
Each project has very specific goals, and it varies from project to project on when things are actually happening. Milestones are being passed, and that's something I'll touch on a bit later with the video updates as well. Is that we'll check in at those milestones, and other projects there's a lot happening in a short space of time, whereas others it's more spread out, and also as many people know, nature takes its time to operate sometimes as well. But
sure. And I think what compounds this idea that we might be spreading ourselves thin is on our YouTube channel. We're sort of launching a lot of new projects quite regularly, aren't we? So I can understand how that may look, but that's why we've just launched a second channel, which Tim's going to go into a bit in the next question. Why aren't there more frequent video updates now that there are more projects? Why don't you make video updates about all of your projects? Also about how old some of the older projects are doing. There's a lot to unpack there, Tim.
Yeah, no, very valid question. Obviously, we know how much our videos are appreciated. It's important transparency, and it's something which over the last year, obviously, we had a wave of new members, which has been amazing. And simply put, the video team couldn't keep up. So we made the conscious decision to only produce videos on a select amount of projects. We wanted to maintain the quality of the videos that we do produce, so we made a conscious effort just to choose a select amount of project videos to make. And also, depending on the type of updates, some of them are brief in nature, so it didn't really warrant a standalone video. There are cases where we have updates discussing possibilities with partners of what type of restoration work to pursue, and these sort of updates lend themselves more to a feed post update in the membership account, or a vlog in our new vlog channel, and to save a sort of fuller, richer update for a video when something when we've acted upon those opportunities. But yeah, having said that, we have recently expanded the video team with Joel joining, so we have some more editing power at our disposal, and you can expect to see some more project videos coming on the main channel as well.
Sorry, were you going to talk about the new channel, the Field Notes?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's something we made. We thought would be a great addition to our content that we can produce on our projects. But in having a different idea is that we could put content up more regularly. That was less of a sort of draw on our resources, so we could have longer form content. There's some great project discussions and vlogs, so you get a real insight to the biologists day to day on the ground activities that they have about projects.
For me, what I really like about it is we often get asked, and we even ask each other in the team, sort of looking back some of the really old projects, like how are they getting on, and as you mentioned, that sometimes the update wouldn't be worth a 10-minute video on the main channel, but it's a great place there that bios can, when they're checking on an older project, just to leave it there on the vlog channel, and or go into a bit more depth. I think on the vlog channel at the moment, Tiago goes into a bit more depth about some of the drone mapping and things. So for those members or non-members that want to sort of dig a bit deeper into how things work, the behind-the-scenes stuff of the projects, they can go in there.
And it's a chance for you to sort of explore the projects you like the most as well. So like I say, pick and choose the ones that you want to know all the gritty details about. So and in terms of older project updates, as I mentioned earlier, that we we'll more likely check in on certain milestones when we achieve something at a project. But also, yes, say the Field Notes channel will be where we'll post shorter, smaller updates. But having said that, we do like to sort of check in on really old projects or main videos also as well. We had the wildfire restoration project over the summer, I think it was.
That was our first project. The wildfire restoration was our first project, 2017.
Yeah. But yeah, well, that was a recent project video, and also the sea clips as well. Sea clip plants.
Yeah, the last video.
That's one of our longest projects. So yeah, it's nice to have a bit of a mix in the.
And one can also be kept up to date on older projects on the project pages.
Yeah.
Also looking at the management plans, one can have a look like when the next sort of milestone will be reached. So you can go in there, have a look at management plan, and think, oh, when is the next milestone for the wildfire restoration or for the next cliff? So then you can sort of anticipate it.
And the timelines on the project pages as well. We'll lay out the calendar of the projects, and you can look ahead.
They're not forgotten. They're not forgotten. Cool. We had a quick stop, change your battery, and I need to put a jacket on. So here we are again. The next question. How can you work with projects that are so far away without becoming counterproductive due to the travelling to get to those locations? It's a very good question, and it's also of great concern to us as a team, and it's something we've discussed internally numerous times. And we've got a few measures in place to sort of minimise our travel. Firstly, the majority of our projects are within Europe, where most of the team are based. So we have biologists on the ground at each of the locations. So Tiago here in Portugal is managing Portuguese projects. Isla in Scotland is managing Scottish projects. And some of those projects outside of Europe, we're working with trusted project partners that have got boots on the ground as well. So there isn't the need to travel so much.
And also the expansion of the team, where we have new members now as well, based in Indonesia and the Amazon.
Yeah, so we have Yuri in Indonesia and Freddie in the Amazon. We make a concerted effort to use the train or bus and only fly when it's completely necessary. So if, for example, flying to Iceland. And I would say the team members that travel the most is the video team, and it's three or four of them that travel, and they probably only travel once a month. So let's say Duarte is traveling to Scotland. When he goes, he's going to film 3 videos there. So when they're in a location, they take advantage. And although on the YouTube channel it might not look like that because of the order that we launch videos, we try to take advantage when Duarte's going to make 7 videos in Ecuador, for example. So they'll be sort of drip fed in the future. So we're conscious of it and trying our best to minimise it with boots on the ground and minimal travelling for the video team.
Yeah, I would say on average, the team are pretty much based in their relevant locations throughout the year, and a few trips obviously to go and check in on projects. But it seems like the majority of the time most people are in their home area.
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
We found another comfortable seat in the forest from which to answer the next question. There have been jays having a disagreement in the trees nearby, so if you do hear them, they sound like dinosaurs, in my opinion. Then apologies, but we'll have a go. Follow along the old projects and ensure that they keep being impactful in the long term when you're starting so many new projects all the time. Now, this is a really good question, and it's one that we've been asking ourselves too. When we fund an intervention with a partner, we're able to see the initial results of the intervention and sometimes monitoring for a year or 2 afterwards. But because our involvement is limited to funding, it can be tricky to assess impact over a wider timescale. And as you suggested, the issue gets even more complex as the number of projects that we pursue increases. I would just like to plug there as well that we have each project has a project management plan which has a monitoring section. And all of the project management plans are available to view on the right-hand side of the project page on our website. So feel free to have a wee look at how different projects are monitored if you'd like. So So to address this, we'll be working to update you on existing partner-led projects that we have, whenever possible, and we'll also be focusing a lot more of our time on establishing our hubs that we've been talking about. So in these hubs we'll lead things like the monitoring of outcomes, experimental design and all other aspects of project management. So you can expect to see more frequent, in-depth updates and more evidence as to their long-term impact as well, because we're much closer to them. It's also worth a mention that unlike a lot of funding organisations, we like to develop we invest a lot of time in developing relationships with our partners, both before we decide to fund a project and as the project is being undertaken or intervention. We regularly check in with the team on the ground and visit to gather video content, and throughout this process we build confidence in our partners, and we know their dedication to ensuring that the projects that we are funding or interventions that we are funding have long-term and lasting impact. We'd also like to point out that these questions point to a wider issue in conservation, whereby it's a lot easier to get funding for interventions, they're a lot more attractive to fund, than data collection and monitoring. Although there's work being done by various conservation organisations, lots of people working hard to find ways for conservation practitioners to implement more data collection and monitoring into their work. And we're also working to integrate more of this into our work as well.
Hi everyone, I'm here at our piece of land in Ecuador, and we've just been busy doing a lot of surveying here, so I think it's the perfect place and context to answer some of the questions we've received about scientific evidence, how it's used, and how we monitor the impact of our projects. So the first question is, how do you measure the impact of your projects? And the short answer is that for each project we design a management plan, and one section of that plan includes an explanation of what indicators will be used to measure impact for that specific project, how these will be measured, and what the calendar is for this monitoring. And to make this a little bit more concrete, I'll just give you a few examples. So if you consider, for example, restoring kelp forests, when we're deploying these pebbles, green gravel with kelp into the ocean, the plan will include, and the budget will include, time for going diving and checking how the kelp are doing, so that we can actually detect the impact that we're having. Or for example, in an area like this here in Ecuador, where we're protecting and restoring the rainforest, we're collecting high-resolution drone maps which will allow us to see how the area is changing over time. So as you can expect from the diversity of our projects, the actual indicators are very diverse. And just to give you one more example, if the project is a reintroduction project like the water voles in the UK, like what you have to do is also check the survival of the individuals and how the new population is persisting over time. So the metrics are very diverse. But I think that's a good thing, because there's no single metric that would be sufficient to compare these projects with each other, and so it's a very tailored approach in each case. But there's also trade-offs that we have to consider when designing these sort of monitoring plans. So any money, any time that we invest into monitoring could also be spent into carrying out more interventions. So we have to make sure that it is worth it. And to do this, we have to consider sort of this value of the information that we will acquire, and that the value of information increases as, for example, as the opportunities for adaptive management increase. So if it's really clear that data has the potential to change how the intervention is carried out while the project is ongoing, then that means that the information is very valuable. It's also very valuable if there's a potential for negative consequences from the project that we need to keep an eye out for, so that we can intervene and act quickly if needed. And other cases are if, for example, it's a large project and there's a large investment that's being made from our part on the project, then the bigger the investment, the more important it is to make sure that we have very robust metrics to demonstrate that impact. So to some extent, the investment in monitoring also scales with the size of the project. And I think, and then finally, the other situations where information and this detailed monitoring becomes particularly valuable is when there's actually a bit of a knowledge gap. There's a lack of evidence. So in these cases, it means that if we have a good experimental design, we can actually generate evidence that will be useful to inform us if we want to do a similar intervention or continue the intervention into the future, and for other people who want to carry out similar work. And so navigating all of these trade-offs is not always easy, and I wouldn't say that we've nailed it every time, but I think we have good processes in place to do this well, and we keep questioning them, refining them, learning by doing, and so I'm excited about where we're headed with all of this. And I also think it's exciting that as Mossy Earth has grown quite a lot over the past few years, thanks to the support of all our members, and that means that we are starting to be more ambitious. You'll start seeing more projects that are focused on more the entire, so more on like landscapes and larger areas. And these projects lend themselves well to a kind of monitoring that involves actually tracking specific ecological metrics and how they're changing over time, which I think is exciting, and I look forward to sharing a lot of that with you over the coming years. So the next question is, have you shared the data generated by your projects anywhere? And I'd say the answer is yes. I think we've shared quite a lot of data. And perhaps one of the best places to look for it is in the account feed, where members can see updates about the projects. And these often come with reports and figures about how the projects are doing. So for example, for a project where we are working to rewild an abandoned quarry in the north of Portugal, you'll be able to download a report that came out of an eDNA survey that we did, which includes a list of all the different species that were found in the different ponds in that landscape. And it also includes a report on the aquatic plants that live there, and including some of the species that are found in this newly flooded area that results from the interventions that we're doing there. You can also find things such as drone maps and figures about the survival rates of species that we've reintroduced. Things like that are shared very openly through our different communication platforms. So that's something that I think we've been doing quite well, being very open about all of this data. But I think we could be more systematic. So one area that we're working on as well is to sort of harness the information and this data and have it submitted where it makes sense to for publication in peer-reviewed scientific journals. But the process has been a bit slow. The reason for that is that ourselves and our partners are often very busy doing project management work, coming up with follow-up interventions, because in essence we are not a research organization. So what we're doing already, and what I think we really need to do more in the future, is to work very closely also with students and academic institutions, so that we can have more brains extracting the interesting findings that are awaiting there in this data that we are generating. So some examples of things that we're working on is like a manuscript for the kelp restoration trial that we did early on, which didn't work. There's also some interesting findings from Caleb, the master's student that's working in Benin, looking at the association between termite mounds and trees there. So there's a lot of things that hopefully will result in some really interesting scientific publications that we can share with you all soon. The next question is if our projects are based on scientific evidence. And from the early days of Mossy Earth, we have asked for scientific evidence to support claims in management plans and project proposals and so on. But the way we do this, the way we integrate scientific evidence, has evolved and improved over the years. And most recently, about a year and a half ago, we started a partnership with the conservation evidence team at the University of Cambridge. And we have been working with them to work on exactly this. How does scientific evidence feed into our projects? And we've made some changes, and you can read all about this in our website if you go to methodologies, conservation evidence. But perhaps to share with you some of how this works and some of the changes we've made is that we now actually have a table in the management plan where we list the claims that are made about how the project will work, and then we have for each of those we have an explanation of what evidence there is to support that claim. So this includes scientific evidence, but also other forms of evidence such as local knowledge or more anecdotal evidence. So that allows you to see where the evidence is stronger, where it is weaker, at an early stage of the project. So this means that when you look at that, you might be able to design the project. So for example, if you see that the evidence is not so strong on a key claim, you might consider changing the project to become more of a pilot, more of a trial. And that's been very, very useful. And the other thing that I think is just important to mention when it comes to this topic is that there's a need for more evidence in this space of ecological restoration, rewilding, conservation. So in many cases the evidence you need to decide what the best intervention is simply is not available, especially if you consider evidence that's relevant to your local context. So you might have some idea about an intervention that worked far away, but in your specific area with its own unique characteristics, it's hard to have rigorous scientific evidence that, sometimes to demonstrate that a certain intervention will be effective. So given that this is how things are, we need to work with it, and for us that's where it becomes really important to be transparent about the evidence base, so sharing this with everyone when there are uncertainties, and then designing projects accordingly. So having smaller scale trials when necessary, testing different things out, and learning from the process and generating the evidence that was lacking in the first place. So this is a little bit our approach, and the short answer is yes, we use scientific evidence, we take this very seriously, and we also are looking for opportunities to create more of that evidence when it is.
So moving over to funding, do you have other sources of funding than the membership? So I can break down our funding. 84% comes from individual memberships and gift memberships. 6% comes from B2B memberships, so that's where a business buys memberships for their employees. 4% comes from YouTube, 3% comes from the Fund Extra page, and then another 3% comes from other donations, things like people fundraising, a few other bits and pieces. All of the funding just mentioned goes through the 80-20 rule, so 80% goes to direct impact on the projects, 20% goes for running costs, except the YouTube channel. The revenue gained from the YouTube channel goes back into the video team. And we get asked, how do we use that 20% for the running costs of Mossy Earth? Again, I can break that down. So if 80% is project specific, the 20% is non-project specific. So salaries like myself, salaries like Tim in comms, Paul in as our chief technical officer, Diogo in operations. So they're non-project related, so they're covered in the 20%. All of our non-project equipment, so computers, cameras, etc. All of our tech infrastructure, licenses for software, a little bit goes on marketing. So that's the 20% there. So I think that's all for funding. Let me just check. Also training courses for the staff come under that 20%. Moving on. So the next one for you, Tim. Why we don't offer many opportunities to get involved in our projects on the ground, volunteering, etc.
Yeah, it comes up a lot. Obviously, we'd love to have more people hands on the ground helping out. I guess most of the projects just don't lend themselves to having big groups of volunteers. We do have the Sea Cliffs project, which recently we had the video on, and there's always opportunities there. But more often than not, we rely on the work of professionals, ecologists, and other professionals in the space to carry out the work. Having said that, we do have some great partners which often have opportunities through volunteering days. So yeah, check out the projects that are in your area, and you can reach out to the project partners there.
Maybe we put those project partners in the description. If people want to check those out there.
Yeah. I'd just mention as well one of the reasons why we built the course was to sort of help people feel more empowered and equip you with the tools to go out and make a difference in your local area. Learning lots of knowledge about rewilding and trying to start your own projects, how to get involved in other rewilding initiatives.
Yeah, so yeah, as I said at the beginning, the course hopefully in January, and there people can get a bit more involved. And we would like to open up more volunteering opportunities when it's right. You know, we've got the Cliff one, but yeah, it's not now, but in the future we would like to have more volunteering projects. So in the meantime, the course. And then the last question I've got here for you, some people are asking, what happened to the vote, Tim?
So yeah, good question. Like the last Q&A, that was the last meaningful vote that we had. Obviously that was a big shift in how we work, and since then we've been sort of busy sort of getting on with this new approach, and haven't really come across a significant enough reason, to be honest, to hold another vote. But it's not something that we are thinking about discontinuing in that sense. So if you have any suggestions, let us know how you feel about the vote and what we should do with it. But it's something we will address, and hopefully continue to have some sort of democratic process in the membership for you.
Yes, yeah, curious to hear your feedback on the vote. It's something we'd like to keep. But yeah, we had thought that it was something that let's save the meaningful decisions for the members, but perhaps you've got other opinions. So yeah, let's look forward to seeing the comments. So yeah, that's all the questions for now. We hope we've answered them well enough for you. If you have any other questions, pop them in the comments. You can ping us an email at the team@mossy.earth. Members can also book a call through their accounts. So yeah, if you're unsure, if we haven't explained anything fully enough, or there's other things that people would like to ask, we're here for you. And
we'll see you next quarter.
See you next quarter. We'll Tim and I will be back. And in the meantime, wishing everybody a happy Christmas and happy New Year. Thank you for the continued support.
Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Cheers.